Hi everyone, they're super giddy because they're really uncomfortable with this, but I want to do something a little bit different on the channel today. You stop laughing. I was sent a Joy Wax candle kit from Nature's Garden, and for anyone that's just getting started in candle making, especially people that have never made any candles before at all, a great way to get started is with a kit. Because I am already a candle maker, me trying to evaluate a kit all by myself is a little tough. So I'm already bringing some knowledge of candle making to this, so I thought the best way to do this was have my two older boys, I patted you on the head, have my two older boys who've never made a candle in their lives open a kit and try to follow it from start to finish and see how it goes. So this is Noah, this is Aiden, and they are going to be trying this candle kit out for the first time ever. So we're going to go ahead and get started. At the end, I'll kind of ask some questions as we go along, see how things are going. Depending on the type of questions they ask me, I might be able to help, maybe not. But at the very end, I'll ask them some other questions to try to get a good evaluation of this candle kit. I will also be doing something similar to this with other candle making kits from other suppliers as well, both with candles and wax melts. So if you're interested in that or any other content on this channel, please subscribe below, hit the like button, and don't forget to comment if you enjoy this type of video. Let's go ahead and get started. This is Nature Garden's Joy Wax Candle Kit. And the only thing I have with us, besides a pair of scissors to open the box and some gloves, I'm going to go ahead and give, well, you know what? They may have gloves in the kit, so I'm not even going to do that yet. But other than that, I don't have anything because most kits give you everything you need to get started. And if there is anything that we do need on hand, something to stir, a pouring pitcher, something like that, then I've got what we need if I need to grab it. Hopefully, there's enough in here that both these guys can make a candle at the same time. Hopefully, you can get a decent shot there. But there is some instructions on top. There are, looks like 12 different hex jars, and also a case of wax, some fragrance oils, lids for the jars. The fragrance oils included are Strawberry Passion, Vanilla Silk, Fresh Linen, and Spring Rain. So there's plenty enough here. Oh, and the wicks are in here as well. So there's plenty enough here for them to make a few candles. And then I will also, if there's enough room, I might make some as well, just to so we can definitely test this thoroughly. Oh, if I didn't mention, this is the Joy Wax Candle Kit, which is their most popular wax that Nature's Garden sells. So the very first part of this kit is that a list of equipment that we will need that is not provided in the kit. So I probably should have looked at this before we got started, but I should have everything we need to go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go over the equipment that we need that is not provided in the kit. So Aiden's going to start off and read that list, and if we have it, we will grab it. If not, we will substitute for something that makes just as much sense to use.
We need a pouring pot,
which we have plenty of pouring pots. I've got the smaller ones here for now, but if we need the larger ones, I will grab them.
We got an old cake pan.
They want us to use a cake pan for a double boiler. I've got a different pot that we'll use for a double boiler, so we're good there.
A mixing spoon.
Got that.
Glass measuring cup.
The measuring cup's probably for the fragrance oil, so I'll grab that here in just a sec.
A measuring spoon.
Not sure what the spoon would be used for, but if we really need it, I've got them.
A stove or a hot plate.
That's just to heat up the double boiler, the pot with the water.
Thermometer.
We've got a thermometer, except, so I don't know if there is multiple types of thermometers you can use. I already have a infrared thermometer, so we're just going to use that.
And a hot glue gun and hot glue sticks.
So that'll be probably for sticking the wicks to the jar. I'm going to use wick stickers. I already have them, and I don't have a hot glue gun, so it's just easier to use that. Okay, so I think we've got all the supplies we're going to need. Now it's time for the candle recipe. So the recipe itself, and I'll go ahead and read this part out loud real quick, is 1 pound of wax plus 1/8 of a color block or less, basically just however much dye you want to use. And then 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces of fragrance oil. And then the instructions are to make approximately 1 pound of candles. It's given us instructions to do that. So I'm going to let them each do 1 pound of candles. And then I will use the rest of the supplies to make some to evaluate myself. It says, note, before you begin melting your wax, make sure you have containers ready to be filled. Go ahead and stick your wicks to the bottom of all the containers. Okay, so we need to do that first. Okay, so we're going to clear some room so they can go ahead and wick the jars first. So you guys go ahead and each take out 6 jars. I'll get your wick stickers. Okay, so they've each got 6 jars, and the wicks sent for this kit are all HTP 83s. So the kit doesn't really tell you, if you've never wicked a candle before, how you do that. So it is assuming that there is at least, I guess, rudimentary knowledge of candle making, like you've done a little bit of research. These guys, I'm going to let them just kind of wing it and go with what they think is right, but just to kind of get you guys in the right direction, if you want a candle to burn pretty evenly, where do you think the wick should go in the jar?
In the middle.
Right, so just go ahead and wick up 6 each and do your best to try to get it in the center of the jar. These are pretty narrow jars, so these are going to be pretty hard to get down in there, but go ahead and give it your best shot.
How do you do this, Dad?
We're also going to use this to help poke it down. So I'll get you started with one. Just put it right on the, okay? Take off, and then you just stick it right in the center. That's the hard part. I can't do it when you're, let me get one going so you have a reference. Okay. And then we'll just use the butt end of this. Careful, this other end's really sharp. So the easiest thing to do is go ahead and get 5 more wicks out and put all of these on it first. Since this is going to take a minute, let's time out real quick. Let's push this to the side. Let's go ahead and get the wax melting. Go ahead and read the first set of instructions. The instructions basically said go ahead and get your jars wicked up, and then they start going into how to make the candles. But we need to get the wax melting just to speed this up. And so we're going to do that first while they're wicking the jars.
Place cake pan with 1/2 of water on the stove or hot plate on low heat. Place an empty pouring pot inside the cake pan to create a double boiler effect.
That's what we're already doing over here. We're not using a cake pan, we're using a big canning pot. And we're starting to boil the water. And so that'll be ready here soon. Go ahead and read step 2.
Place 1 pound of wax plus 1/8 of a color block or less if you desire a pastel colored candle inside the pouring pot and melt the entire mixture to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Use your thermometer to monitor the temperature through thoroughly mix the wax mixture.
Okay, we can worry about the dye later, but this step is really just about getting the right amount of wax weighed out and start getting it melted. So it said 1 pound, right? You each are going to be doing one of these at the same time, right? So Aiden, you're going to be doing one set of this. Noah, you're going to be doing another set of it. The difference is one of you is using one oil and color. You're using a different oil and color, okay? If you're going to be placing 1 pound of wax each, okay, so we need to go ahead and get 1 pound in your pitcher and 1 in yours, and let's get them melting. And then we'll figure out the rest from there. Go ahead and put your pot on there.
Wow.
We roughly need 1 pound. And that's pretty much exactly 1 pound, 16 ounces, okay? So let's go ahead and take yours and place it in that pot. So the water, as it heats up, is going to melt the wax. All right, Noah, you do the same thing. Go ahead and open up brand new one. Make sure it reads back to 0. Yep. Okay, so while the wax is melting, let's decide who's going to make what. So the 4 fragrances that we have available in the kit are Fresh Linen, Vanilla Silk, Spring Rain, and Strawberry Passion. You guys each choose one, and then I will make the remaining candle with another one of them. So Noah, Aiden went with what?
Strawberry Passion.
And Noah's going with?
Vanilla Silk.
So they both kind of went with sweet fragrances. I will probably do the Spring Rain when it gets to me. And then they did provide, let's see, a red dye block and a royal blue dye block. Aiden, you're using Strawberry Passion, so you can use the red dye block. Noah, you're doing what?
Vanilla Silk.
Vanilla Silk, so you might not use any color in yours. We'll get to that stage here in a sec. Let's go ahead and finish wicking those up. So I'm sitting there telling you guys not to use the knives, to be careful. And I'm the one that cuts myself. We're going to have you guys put on gloves. Now while the wax is melting, we can go ahead and add the dye in now while we're waiting. I typically prefer to use colored dye liquids, liquid dye. Wow, that was, screwed that up. I prefer to use liquid dye personally. I just think it's a little easier to use. It can be a little messier, but you typically get pretty good colors and it's easier to be consistent with drops versus shavings. But this kit includes 2 dye blocks, and again, there's nothing wrong with the blocks, just not something I use too much of. Aiden went with Strawberry Passion, so he's going to use a little bit of the red. And Noah's not using any of yours, and I'll use the royal blue when I do the Spring Rain later. basically break off little bitty chunks or shavings, okay, right into the wax. I will say it's pretty common to have dyed blocks or chips in kits like this instead of liquid dye, because one little bottle of liquid dye can be $5 to $8 and it's just going to last you forever. You just don't need that much liquid dye for a sample kit. So you're just going to use this or whatever just to just cut off a few little shavings, and once it's in the wax you'll get an idea of if you need to add more or not. Okay, while we are waiting on theirs to heat up to the right temperature, I'm going to go ahead and one more batch going that I will do myself. They went ahead and waked up all the jars earlier. Again, every single jar is an HTP 83, so I don't have to wake any for the last batch that I'm going to do. And as a reminder, I'm going to be doing the Spring Rain in a light blue color. I just dropped blue dye into the wrong one. The wax is melted up. We're ready to go for these guys to add their fragrance and pour and all that. But one slight change, totally my bad. I started working on my batch of candles with the Spring Rain, which is blue dye, and I accidentally dropped the blue dye into Noah's wax because it was also undyed wax, so I just messed up. So he's switching over to Spring Rain since his wax is ready to go and already blue, and I will do the Vanilla Silk on my batch. You guys want to check the temperature? Just hold it about 10 inches away, so over top of the wax, you can pull the trigger and aim the red light right in the center. Let me know what it reads.
191.
Okay, so 190. So they're both ready to go.
Once the mixture is 200 degrees Fahrenheit removed from the heat, allow the wax temperature to cool to approximately 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Quickly add 1 ounce to 1.5 ounce fragrance oil. Stir the mixture. Once the mixture is at 160 to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, pour the mixture into your containers.
Okay. Go ahead and take your pitcher and be careful not to drop any water in another pitcher because you don't want to mix water and wax. So Aiden, go ahead and grab yours out and just set it on this. Now I'm going to stand back out of you guys' way so you have plenty of room. It's probably going to be pretty much the whole bottle. So somewhere between 1 ounce and 1.5. And see how it says ounces? Mm-hmm. So you're already in the right measurement.
1 ounce?
Okay, so the whole bottle is essentially pretty much 1 ounce on the dot. So we just use the whole bottle. You go ahead and add that to your mixture and stir after you pour it in. Now, if we knew it was going to be exact, just the whole bottle, we wouldn't have used this. Could have just poured it in, but you never know. And actually, that's something worth mentioning real quick while they're stirring is Nature's Garden sells their fragrance oils by volume, so fluid ounces, as opposed to weight, which is just ounces. So you always want to weigh your fragrance oils when you're doing candle making. So always weigh it instead of just relying on what the number is on the bottle. Nature's Garden is pretty good if you just ask them what the conversion is whenever you buy 16 fluid ounces, what that equals in weight. That way you track everything by weight. You can get that number from them, which is pretty nice. So you guys are stirring, go ahead and check your temperature. So right before you check your temperature, we're going to do a nice little stir and then aim it right in the middle.
172.
Okay, go ahead and do this one. You can do it a couple ways, however you want to do it. You can pull one to the side and pour it, or you can line them all up and then pour as you go.
How do I pour it?
Basically just up kind of, it doesn't really tell you, but I would say just kind of go near where the edge is there. And do you want to pour left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
That's what I thought. Hold this underneath like this, catch the drippings. A little difficult when it's a small jar. It's good, and then okay, so we pretty much got 4 candles out of that. A little, not quite, a little short, but we were estimating on wax and everything. So now Noah's doing his Spring Rain. All their candles poured, some a little more full than others. There's one other thing that I noticed the instructions did not include, and that was what to do about the wicks after you pour it. So obviously you don't want to allow your wicks to just lean over like that. They'll sink down in the middle and they'll be off to the side and then they'll kind of bend. You won't have a good burning candle if you let that happen. So you want to get your wicks to stay centered. So again, most people that are buying a candle kit have already done some basic research. So they may have already have some other supplies and know about centering your wicks and things like that. They don't really talk about it in the instructions. They just say once poured, let your candles firm up or settle. However, I want to test burn these as well, so I am going to have these guys put on these bow ties, to keep their wicks centered and taut while they are cooling. All right, so these are not what I normally use, to be honest. I use other centering tools that fit my other normal jars perfectly. But these are nice because they fit so many types of jars. They'll work just fine for this. We just want to keep the wick somewhat centered. These are even a little big for these jars, but they will work. Put it right through the middle. And then you want to pull it snug into that little slot. And then just make sure it lined up. And set it aside. Okay, they are done with theirs. While mine is melting, and before I make that final batch, we've got a couple minutes here. What did you guys think about it overall? Aiden, I'll start with you. What was the easiest and hardest part for you?
The easiest was probably putting the wicks in, like before doing this. And then the hardest part, probably pouring, because I would get so tense. I did that.
Okay. Noah, same question.
The easiest part was, centering these things. The hardest part was probably pouring.
Just a steady hand, or like what? Or not have much room?
Just trying to get it right, perfect.
I obviously would kind of having to help you guys along the way because certain things you guys never used before, I've obviously had to kind of nudge you in the right direction. But was there anything that you thought the instructions were? How did you feel about the instructions? Pretty clear, pretty simple? Any confusing parts? Any suggestions?
I just don't know much about like the stuff that you need for it, so.
Yeah, the instructions were pretty simple, I think.
Thank you for that analysis.
Well, what else do you want me to say?
So do you feel like the instructions were written for someone who's never made candles before, or written for someone with maybe a tiny bit of knowledge about candle making? Or do you think that someone would really have to have a pretty good idea how to make candles for these instructions to work? Which one of those?
Probably just a tiny bit of knowing about candle making. I didn't know at all, so.
Yeah.
So you feel like maybe you need to have some basic information.
Yes,
basic
about like
fundamentals.
what stuff is and how.
What did you guys think about the fragrances that you chose
I
or were forced upon you? Did you like the smell of your fragrance?
Mine's the best. So.
Yeah, the strawberry. And Noah went with spring rain.
It was pretty strong.
It's kind of interesting smelling them together, that's for sure. Okay, so now that you've done one kit, based off those instructions and me giving you a few pointers along the way, or several pointers along the way, do you think you could do another one by yourself if I were not here right now and you had everything you needed? Do you think you could do it on your own again?
Only thing that I would struggle with is like how long you should leave it in there.
And where?
Like the wax in, or how long, like until you check the temperature.
Okay, so basically just trying to keep an eye on the temperature.
Yes.
Well, there really is no rule to that. You can check it as much as you want. I would say the instructions did a good job of telling you what temperatures things needed to get to, because that is a pretty common mistake or popular question. So at least it gives you pretty good specific instructions when it comes to temperature. What temperature to add the oil, what temperature to pour the candles, and so on. What about you? Do you think you could do it pretty well, or do you have any other questions about the process?
I think I could do it pretty well.
Not much of a talker, this one. No, I think I can do it pretty well.
Please don't put that in there.
That's going in there.
What do you want me to say?
Well, you started off like you were going to say something else, and then you just didn't. So I'm going to finish up the rest of this video on my own, doing another batch just by myself, so I can give my perspective about how this kit worked for someone that does already currently make candles, and then give you some general feedback and review once we're done. I'm glad that they had a chance to do this. Thank you guys for doing this. I know you didn't really want to, but thank you for doing it anyways. All right, my final batch has reached the right temperature. We'll go ahead and get it out here. Add in the fragrance oil. Now, I swapped fragrances with Noah since I accidentally put the dye in his. So this one is not going to be colored, and we're using the vanilla silk fragrance. While I'm stirring this before I pour it, talk about the fragrances a little bit. I did not use the fresh linen in the kit, but it smells like a pretty much like a kind of a clean laundry fragrance, dryer sheet, something like that. So it does smell good, but fairly familiar. So I wanted to try, one of these other ones and leave that one to the side. Out of the three that we used, Spring Rain, Strawberry Passion or something like that, and Vanilla Silk. I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up for me between the Strawberry and the Spring Rain. I like them both, they're just very, very different. My least favorite is definitely this Vanilla Silk. I'm not a huge vanilla fan, but this one smells, I don't know, at least this potent. Kind of reminds me of Play-Doh a little bit, but I'm sure it's a popular one that many people like, just not my favorite type of fragrance. All right, so we are finished pouring all the candles. We ended up with 12 candles, as promised, with actually a little bit of fragrance oil and wax remaining. Now, we could have used more wax in each batch for sure. We left most of them a little short. I would say that the recipe calls for 1 pound per batch per 4 candles, and I think you really need a little bit more than that. I would probably go with, somewhere around 18 to 20 ounces, so about a little over a pound, and I think you would have filled the containers a little bit better. Well, I've had a chance to test out each one of these little sample candles from the kit that we made with Nature's Garden. If you remember, we did the Strawberry Passion, we did the Vanilla Silk, I believe it was called, and then we did the Spring Rain. Now, funny thing I want to say first is my least favorite out of the bottle was that Vanilla Silk one. I think I said it smelled a little bit like Play-Doh or something in the first part of the video. But I gotta say, it ended up being maybe my favorite one. It's kind of a toss-up between these two. Maybe my nose was somewhere else that day. I don't really know what I was smelling. But it's one of my favorite vanilla fragrances I think I've smelled in a little while. It's pretty good. Okay, so how did they burn overall? This isn't really a review of how a finished product candle would burn. I wasn't really focused on proper testing all the way through or anything like that. I'm just here to review the kit. And as a kit, it's meant to be beginner candles to kind of get your feet wet and see if it's something you want to continue doing. So that being said, I wasn't expecting perfect candles. So the instructions from the kit were great, and they did lead to great looking candles. Nothing wrong with them at all. They even had good jar adhesion and very minimal issues overall. So good job there. The only struggle I had was with the wick choice. I think HTP is a good choice of a type of wick, but if it was me and my kit, I would probably go a couple sizes smaller. At least one for sure. I think the kit came with all HTP 83 wicks, and based off my burn with all 3 of these, I would certainly go down to an HTP 73, but I would probably even try a 62 as well for these jars. They are pretty small. So like I said, they all had great hot throw, by the way. They all had really, really good hot throw, but the wick was too large on all 3 of them. Just a couple hours into the burn, the melt pool was a little too deep and definitely had a big mushroom and oversized curl to them. And so I definitely would wick down on the wicks if it was my kit. But again, this isn't about how to make a perfect candle or a testing process or anything like that. So what were my thoughts on the overall kit itself? I think it was pretty good. For me, there's 2 kind of kits when it comes to candle making. The first type of kit is meant for someone who has never made a candle for themselves ever before in their life. So that first type of kit is meant for people that are completely new and really are starting from ground level. They haven't done much research. They really just want to buy something, have perfect, clear instructions, make it very simple, and then just see if they enjoy it. And then the second type of kit, in my opinion, is really meant for those that know a little bit about candle making. They've done their homework, they've done some research, general idea of kind of how to make a candle. They know about basic supplies. In other words, they know the fundamentals. They just necessarily really haven't done a lot of candle making yet. They've explored a little bit, and now they're just trying to decide on what type of candles they want to make. Maybe they're trying to decide on a type of wax or choose a supplier. And the latter of those 2 types of kits is what I think Nature's Garden's kit fits a little bit better for. I think their kit is better designed for someone who knows a little bit about candle making, some fundamentals, because there are some assumptions in the steps of the kit. They expect you to know at least a little bit about candle making, and not that that's a bad thing. Again, it's geared towards different people. And then there are some supplies that they expect you to have as well. So it really just depends on who's buying the kit. You know, for my boys or for someone brand new starting out, this kit might seem a little overwhelming to them just because there's kind of a lot going on. You're making multiple different candles with different fragrances. These steps make a few assumptions as you're going through. You know, I did ask them if they think they could do it a second time on their own, and they said yes. So that's encouraging, but I definitely think that this kit would be better designed for someone who's done a little bit of legwork themselves and maybe just researched online, learned the fundamentals, and then decided to purchase a kit. So as far as the kit instructions, as I mentioned, they make a couple assumptions, nothing too significant or crazy. And again, it depends on who they're making the kit for. But I think I would talk a little bit more about wicking, maybe suggest in the kit, a little bit more about how to center the wick and why that's important. Maybe adjust the wick sizing as I talked about. And then the other thing I would change about the kit, if it was me, is instead of wanting the candle maker or the maker using the kit to get a hot glue gun and use hot glue sticks, I would just have them use, I would just include a small set of wick stickers, something like this. I mean, it's a small kit, so just throw in 12 wick stickers. And I just think that makes it a lot easier because not everyone has or is going to be thinking about needing a hot glue stick, especially if they've never made candles before. I just think that would be a nice little touch to go ahead and add in 12 wick stickers. That's not much at all to add to the kit, and I think it would be a very convenient add if it was me. Other than that, the kit came with everything you really needed. The jars, the wicks, the wax, the oils. They even put in warning labels and lids. All of that is pretty optional when you're talking about a candle making kit, yet those were still included, which is a really nice touch. Only thing that I'm not overly fond of is using the dye chip blocks, but for a kit, I perfectly understand why. Trying to add liquid dye bottles when you're only going to need a couple of drops would be a waste of supplies. And so I understand using the dye chips for testing purposes, but they are kind of difficult to use, and especially when you only need a tiny bit. So that would be my only other possible suggestion, but I'm not sure the best way to get around that. So all in all, I thought it was a good kit. I really like working with Nature's Garden. They're a great company with great customer service. They've got a lot of great products. And so if you are interested in trying this kit out, I will put it in the link in the description below. Or if you know anyone else, friends or family that you think might be interested in trying a little candle making, this would be a good gift to give as well. I had a blast doing this video, and I really did think it was a good idea to let my boys kind of be part of this. I thought it would be a great way to test a new kit. Me being a candle maker, knowing how to use the kit, along with two people that have never made a candle before. So I thought that was nice to see, and hopefully that added a little bit of interest to the video as well. I'm sure you guys all get sick of just watching me make candles all the time. So for future reviews, I'm going to try to do something similar, I think. I think it's great to get some different perspective on these kits. So once again, thank you all for being here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Big shout out to my boys for Noah and Aiden for joining me with this. They were very hesitant about wanting to do that. They just didn't want to be on camera. Appreciate you all for being here, and appreciate Nature's Garden for all the supplies for testing and review. And I will see you all next time. You stop laughing. You're being too stoic.
That was so cute, Dad.
And you're going.
When I look at the camera, I get nervous.
She says,
So once we get on the candle making part, you can't edit.
oh my God.